Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the World Championship Series America Round of 16. It's time for Group D. Hopefully you've enjoyed all of our coverage so far of the first three groups. We've had 12 players already in action over the last 2 days. 6 of them have progressed through to the round of 8, and there's been a few little surprises along the way, not major ones. But now it's time for Group D. Group D for Droop of Death. You hate these terminologies, don't you?
I kind of hate them, but it's true for this one.
It is true about this one. Difficult for the two players who are involved, who aren't perhaps household names. XiGua, Chinese player, 27 years old.
XiGua.
Yeah, all right, okay. You're much better than that. I mean, your Mandarin's so better. We've also got Crank in here, experienced player, been around for a while now, playing for Axiom. But the two that stand out, beyond a shadow of a doubt, are Polt. Multiple winner last year, of course. Probably only behind Tasia in terms of the amount of tournaments he won last year. And Bomber, WCS Season 2 champion of last year as well. So two massive names, two massive Terrans. This is going to be a really tricky group for the two outsiders.
In your terms, I think he's going to be a cracker indeed. You know, Crank, he had a very, very strong performance in a round of 32 versus Terran. So as much as he's not as a big name as the other guys, I would say if he plays the same way here, if he plays as well as he did around 32, if he comes up with nice builds again, because surely these guys have studied what he did previously, I think he's going to have a good chance to make it out. He just needs, basically, he just needs to beat one of the Terran, sort of, to advance. You know, I think
definitely needs to beat a Terran today. That's
definitely
for sure.
Does. So we could see Crank advance.
Okay, let's look at the 4 players in a little bit more depth, give you a little bit more information around these players. Obviously, we're playing for WCS points as well this season, just like every season throughout the tournament in 2014. And currently, right now, Polt's doing a rather good job of it. He's already in 5th place, having reached the last 16 last year.
By the way,
so
the 3 choice.
Yeah.
They all have the same last name.
Yeah, that's weird.
But then poor XiGua is named Lei Wang.
Yeah. He also doesn't have 5,625 points just yet. That's a typo in that one. Apologies for that one. But he is very high up on the thing. That was last year's. Oh, that's okay. That's fine. So yeah, number 5 right now. The rest are all about 25 to 40, and that's pretty much the same for everyone out there right now. They're all got sort of between 450 and 300 points because they're all qualified through to round 16. But WCS points they're important, Todd, even at this early stage. We're seeing a lot of players already, having played in a lot of other WCS qualifying tournaments, who have got an amount of points almost equivalent to what got people into the top 16 last year. It's going to be very competitive this year.
Yeah, it's going to be more competitive than ever. There's a lot of tournaments. Everybody realized the importance of qualifying for a tournament like BlizzCon. And some players, they've already done a lot of work. Now it's for players here in the WCS in the main thing to score some points as well. And they need to have this on their mind a minimum. Like how important, it's not only important here to win.
Because we're talking about it, but does it really matter to these guys right now?
I think so, because a lot of people say it's still early in the year. No, it's not early in the year anymore. We're in the 4th month here, and it's time to start scoring some serious points if you want to have a good chance to qualify for BlizzCon. A lot of, especially, I think Tasia...
We say BlizzCon, right? But what we're actually talking about, that hasn't been confirmed yet, by the way. So we don't actually know whether it is BlizzCon. We're just guessing. But it's definitely the global finals at some point. Whenever it might happen, if it does happen at BlizzCon, obviously it'll be fantastic. But it is really important right now. And you've still got more than Rotterdam.
Are you surprised?
No. Frankly, no, I'm not. I just thought I'd bring that in there because Kevin...
Poor Roddy didn't ask for anything. I'm like taking jabs at him.
Yeah. Well, you took a little bit of a jab earlier because he was making fun of your point study from last year. But I just thought I'd throw that one in there. Getting back to these 4, Polt and Bomber, absolute clear favourites. Other than Crank, do you think the Chinese player has a chance of getting out of this group, or is he absolutely destroyed from day one?
I think him already being this far is a very good and surprising thing that he was able to achieve. So on one hand, it means that he's already made it far and it's going to be tough from now. But on the other hand, he's already kind of surprised us, and he could do more. But I don't know, man. Beating any of the Terrans here, I feel it's going to be almost impossible for him. If he was to win, I think he would have the best chance against Crank. You need to be 2 guys to advance.
Okay, thank you very much. We're almost ready for our first game. Let's take a look at the bracket, though, and show you the 2 matches that are going to take place to open Group D. It's going to be Polt versus XiGua first, and then Bomber versus Crank. Crank really does have a tough opening. It's interesting as well that Polt and Bomber, between them, have over $400,000 prize money earned. in their careers already.
They could buy a lot of things.
The total amount of prize money won by all 16 players is 1.1 million in WCS America this year. They have 400 grand between them. It's a crazy amount of money.
Yeah, it is. Compared to the other guys, it's like David versus Goliath. But in StarCraft, does not always mean everything. Winning one best-of-3 series against somebody that's very strong, if you've been practicing yourself a lot, always a very realistic scenario, but it's going to be tough for these guys.
Okay, let's talk about the first matchup, Polt versus XiGua. He has got some good form, our Chinese friend. He has got some good form. He's been playing very, very well recently. He's won a ton of online cups as well. Seems to be quite popular out in China as well in terms of winning those online cups. There's plenty of them to win. And he's done well against Max Ed and Jim and Top and obviously Tubing, who played early on in Group C as well. So on the basis of that, should we expect a similar kind of level of performance to the rest of the Chinese players, or is there something special about him?
I think much like the others, he's been around forever. He was a Warcraft pro gamer. I actually faced him in the semifinals of WCG, I don't know what, 2007 in Italy. So he...
6.
Yeah, he already had made it very far in the tournament back then. Yeah, good job. Good job, Red Eye. So he's been around a very long time. He has a lot of experience with practice and all that. But the Chinese, they've talked about how they've been having a hard time practicing well these days because of their connection. I hope that's not going to play too big of a factor. I really feel like Max Ed looked to be a little bit out of shape today. So that's what I'm afraid for XiGua's game here. And if he's in good shape, he could do well.
Okay, he goes up against Polt. I don't think there's an awful lot that's needed to be said about him. I think anyone that's followed StarCraft over the last few years will know who he is, but let's just talk a bit about him. Last year was a terrific year for Polt. He really came out of the gate flying, picked up 3 premier tournaments along the way. Didn't feature perhaps as strongly as we thought he would do at BlizzCon, or by his standards, but has opened up in 2014 pretty much the same way as he set out, and he's definitely the king of TVP right now, ranked #1 in the world in that matchup, over $260,000 in winnings, and looking just to add as much as he possibly can in 2014. He's also the defending WCS America champion, and not only once but twice. He's the only man to get to 2 finals and win both.
You know, you could go on like this for a very long time.
I could just stand here for another 10 minutes and talk about his plaudits, but I'm just trying to make the point that this isn't just, you know, David and Goliath. This is David and Goliath's little brother. Because the reason, or David's little brother, I should say, because the other way around. I don't see how Polt can not get out of this group.
Yeah, you know, Polt is one of those guys. When I see him play against Zerg, I'm really happy that I don't play Zerg. And I think if I was a Zerg player, going into a match against him, I would like to forfeit a lot of the time, not just because my bunker got scouted.
You see him join the 7, you're like, Polt, okay, GG. Just
exactly, yeah.
All right, okay. Thank you very much, Todd. We're going to take a break here at the analysis table. We're going to send you over to our commentaries team. And I can tell you what, there is a certain Terran amongst us, not including me, that is super excited for this group. He is so excited, he is like a 7-year-old on Christmas Eve. Nathanius, it's all yours.
Thank you, Paul. I could not be more excited for this group. 2 fantastic Terran players. As a Terran myself, this is what I've been looking forward to for most of the round of 16. Polt and Bomber, of course. Polt playing first. This is going to be a sick group, Claire's.
Yes, it is. I was also wrangling for these games as well. TVZ, and then potentially a TVT later on. Let's not get ahead of ourselves too much. But if that happens, I think there's going to be quite a few happy people out there. Yeah,
we haven't had any TVTs. This is the only group that's actually had 2 Terran players in it for our round of 16. Of course, we have the veto process going now for these players. And I think an interesting first veto. All of a sudden, towards the latter half of today's broadcast, we've had a lot of vetoes of Frost, which is unusual.
I'm very surprised by that. Normally when I see Polt playing on Frost against Zergs, he looks pretty comfortable. He normally does. I mean, Polt is the true staple of anything that I think of when it comes to Terran. Pushing out there, denying the creep, pushing that back, being able to drop multiple angles. And well, I'm surprised by that to begin things.
Yeah, I'm actually shocked that we're not going to have Alterzim Stronghold veto. This is going to be among the first of games. I think we've only had... No, I don't even think we've had 1 game on Alterzim Stronghold, maybe if I wasn't paying attention, but I'm pretty sure this is going to be the first time. Daedalus Point is the starting map, so we already have a very interesting turnaround of maps. Daedalus Point, Polar Knight, and Alterzim Stronghold. Lots of people have been vetoing Daedalus Point, especially versus Zergs. It's one of the most heavily vetoed maps in the pool. Polar Knight, I guess, has kind of been back and forth on the veto wheel, but pretty much everybody is vetoed Alterzim Stronghold.
Yeah, it's not been as common as other ones, especially as Frost, that just randomly disappears from the very beginning. I'm going to assume that it was Polt's veto first.
Yeah.
Oh no, it was Polt's veto first, so he gets rid of that. So curious to see, really understand why that is the case, but let's get to this guy, because this is our two-time WCS America champion. This is the defending champion of WCS America. He is here in the round of 16. He is looking to move on not only to the round of 8, but he's looking for a third title. Nothing but first place for this guy matters. He wants that top spot.
Yeah, he's not only a great player, he's got great sportsmanship. He's known as Captain America for our region for a reason. Excellent English. He's always very enthusiastic about these games, especially in his interviews. And his TVZ, I mean, Todd said it perfectly. If you were a Zerg player, Polt is one of the last people you want to play. He's like the doctor writing a thesis on TVZ every time we see him playing WCS America, setting trends with some of his creative openings. We've seen him actually pioneer in 2013 the fast Viking play in this matchup just to kill overlords, and he is all around. He has the perfect Terran versus Zerg, I would say, from majority of Terrans we see play lately.
Yeah, it's not even just TVZ, it's TVP as well. We saw him in Intel Extreme Master Clone do amazingly, but then we have arguably the challenger here in this match, at least, XiGua, who, much to my surprise, only gained 25 points. We saw the overlay before. It's like, he's only got 25 points in 2013 in WCS. I was like, really? Had to actually double check it to make sure, because XiGua, it feels like he's been around forever as one of the strongest Chinese players, right up there, but only gaining 25 points last year, that's not the benchmark that he would set himself. He would always want more. I mean, he's already gained more than that being in this round of 16 so far this year. Yeah,
you said it perfectly. He is the underdog of this whole group. There's so much talent here. Crank and Bomber, just in another match you can't help but be incredibly excited for. But for this series, to start on Daedalus Point, I already like that. This isn't going to be like any other TVZ that you've probably seen lately. These are maps that get vetoed a lot in these matchups. We saw Neeb actually play a fantastic TVZ yesterday against Revival on this map. And from Polt, I don't expect anything less than completely standard. He is probably, it's weird to say, his overall playstyle, probably one of the most predictable Terran versus Zerg. He almost never goes mech any matchup, loves to play bio, and he is just all about being 100% aware of everything as it's happening. And we're loading into this first map. I couldn't be more excited.
Oh, not gonna. I mean, Group D for me here is the highlight of the round of 16. And to finish off our round of 16 with it is going to be an absolute treat. We start things with Polt and XiGua. Let's get into it. Game number 1 between these two players looking to advance onto the winner's game. Will it be Polt? Will it be XiGua? As we jump into Daedalus Point. Spawning up to the top left, our blue Terran here, representing CM Storm. It is Polt.
The Captain America himself up against the red Zerg player, the underdog in this group of death. From Invictus Gaming, it is XiGua. Man, if you're XiGua, you get a little bit of time. Of course, everybody gets to see these groups a week or so in advance. You get to at least know who you have to play against. How do you prepare for somebody like Polt? I guess you could say that on this map, maybe people would say it's not that bad for being aggressive with the way the natural's laid out. But, I mean, you can't just try to kill Polt early. It almost never works.
Yeah. I mean, as you asked that question, the instant thought that came to my head was, like, all-ins. But even then, you're right. It's so difficult to make it work against this guy because he is so well defensively set up, and he's going to spot it as well. He normally will end up spot that gas goes down. No doubt for that Reaper to end up jumping on in there if something like that were to happen. So XiGua, it's bizarre to say this, but against a player like Polt, who's so great in the mid game and the late game, I feel like his best option might be just play it out. Play it out.
Yeah. Especially considering that if XiGua's supply past 8 minutes somehow gets above Polt's, we can almost call Polt behind. And then when Polt is behind, he just turns it up to a whole other level. He becomes almost a different player if he's behind in a game of StarCraft. It's quite scary, the level of comebacks that he's been able to make all throughout his career, especially towards the end of 2013. But pretty standard openings this game. And he will be opening Reaper, as you said. I think maybe one of the reasons why you would veto Frost. And I still think you can open Reaper on a very standard map like Frost, but some Terrans like to go Command Center first. Maybe Polt wants to just play all these maps that are good for Reapers. And weirdly enough, I think you technically can on Alter Zim. There's a lot of space for it. As a bigger map, I don't know. Some of the decisions that have been made even before this series has started are still kind of chewing at me.
And it's important to note here when we go into this round of 16 game, the first one of Group D, is that XiGua, during the round of 32, he didn't have to play any Terrans. All he had to do was play PVZ, that ZVP, and that's all he had to play. So it's a real change-up in pace that we're going to see from him, or have to bring to the table at least, to deal with a player like Polt. At least he sees the Reaper heading across as well as the Command Center, so he knows that, you know, it's a normal start here for Polt.
Yeah, and I don't think this is anything that, if you study Polt, you know pretty much every matchup, every map, he will open Reaper. It's predictable, but due to just the way that Polt plays, it's always solid. There's no, oh, I can punish the fact that he's opening up Reaper. And Polt gets in with his Reaper. He sees, okay, not able to really pick up too much at the start of this game just yet, but he does spot that gas. And you know what? One drone kill start off is not that bad at all.
Yeah, not too bad. Even any lings he could get, but good control here by XiGua so far. Keeping those alive is very, very important. Don't want to be losing any of those. You don't want to have to replenish them. As Polt now gets along with his second Reaper. Third Reaper is even on the way here. So a lot of annoyance from 3 Reapers in general.
Yeah, this is one trend that Polt seems to be following. I don't believe it was a trend that he set, surprisingly, in this matchup. But 3 Reaper is incredibly popular, and with this gas opening, one of the common side effects of opening up with this gas is you have a little bit less normal mineral income. You can't always get to 4 queens that fast, and if you can't do that, and these Reapers chew apart your first queen, he's already got it down to half health. He's actually sending it back into his base because he does not want those Reapers to kill it. This is where not having that many queens, these Reapers can do a ton of damage before that speed is complete.
Second queen pops just in the nick of time to actually fend this off. 2 queens is always going to be better than 1 at that defense, as we have now a few barracks being added on after the 3rd command center actually started up. So big focus of macro here for Polt, as he has been spotted by XiGua. So once again, at least he knows what's going on.
Yeah, this is very interesting by Polt, actually. He started up the 2 additional barracks before he even begun his Hellion production. So it could just be from the focus being spent on the Reapers, but he'll have his Marine production actually much faster than you typically would for most 3 command center based openings in the Terran versus Zerg matchup. And this gives him an opportunity, if he wanted to put out a lot of Marines, I imagine he'd want to get add-ons with the gas that he has saved up. But this will allow him to go for a very fast Marine attack follow-up after the Hellions, maybe even before Medivacs. It's just a little bit faster of a follow-up attack than usual, I think.
It could catch him off guard, really could. Especially if he just couples up these Hellions as well as the Reapers together, starts poking out, maybe denying a little bit of creep, doing what he can. Of course, XiGua is going to start walling this off a little bit, but it can be oftentimes annoying to wall off this ramp, so it does take a little bit more than that. It's not going to be the most amazing walls.
His creep tumors, I think, actually blocked him from putting those evolution chambers next to each other. Yeah. So what XiGua is doing is pretty much par for the course. He's taking his 3rd base, double evolution chamber, lair. This doesn't look like he wants to be aggressive, and because of this, I don't think it's as big of a deal, but the build that Polt has done allows him to get his production fast enough that if XiGua did try to do any of those potential aggressive moves that we'd mentioned earlier, Polt's production will be set up so fast, he's already putting out 5 Marines at a time. Normally that Terran production doesn't kick in closer to 10 minutes, but Polt is going to be set up in a position that allows him to defend if he needs to. And with this scan, sees 2 evolution chambers that are upgrading and a lair on the way. He knows he doesn't have to worry about any type of assault coming soon.
Yeah, very, very good scan, gotta say. To actually just scan there and be able to spot all of that and know that even that his opponent's going to be actually morphing in a layer. That position was nice. And Polt now is pressuring. Polt is moving out, looking to maybe do a little bit of damage over at that 3rd base, as there were already drones transferred over there. These Hellions are going to go to town. There's really not a lot, too much DPS, but the Queens do come along for the defense. Yeah, having to move those Queens around, not something that you particularly want to do. You had to actually take one off of his natural expansion. So the Spire starts, and here, as these engineering bays are underway for Polt, is the real weakness of any build that gets you fast tech, economy, and this army production, is you have lower upgrades. So the 1-1 will be done very soon, past halfway now for XiGua, whereas it hasn't even started for Polt. These Zerglings blocking that 3rd command center from landing. He's going to pull those Hellions all the way back. He'll run out the Marines. It's just, he doesn't have to worry about being hit with a run by, because we can see there's no other Zerglings hidden there. But it's a little bit annoying for Polt. And he needs to make something happen with these units. Otherwise, usually where Terrans are ahead in upgrades, you can fall behind. Yeah. Killing off a few of those creep tumors in the middle of the map's always nice, but there are 2 queens still at the front there, for a total of 5 across the entire map to continue pushing it across. So not the most amazingly contained creep, but I mean, look at this push.